Go ahead.
Thank you. Mr. Ryan?
Good evening.
Mr. Gurley?
Okay.
You gotta look for yourself.
You could Google it.
You
You got a phone down there.
We all set? Like ready to go live? Okay, fantastic. Thank you, everybody. Sorry for the delay. We had some technical difficulties and didn't want you to miss any of the excitement. So real quick, the Open Public Meeting Statement. In accordance with the Open Public Meeting Act, Chapter 231, PL 1975 announcement, I wish to announce that the New Jersey Open Public Meeting Act was enacted to ensure to the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this act, the School District of the Chatham Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, place thereof posted in the Board Administrative Offices, sent to the Chatham Borough Clerks, the Township Clerks, the Library of the Chathams, the Chatham Courier, the Daily Record, the Star Ledger, and the TAP. Peter, would you mind taking attendance?
Here. Here.
Here. Ms. Kenny, Ms. Ross,
Here.
Mr. Ryan,
Here.
Mr. Smith,
Here.
Dr. Zhang,
Here.
and Ms. Weber.
Here.
8 present and accounted for.
Excellent. If you're able, please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. The flag is over here. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Play ball. Excellent. Okay, very good. We're going to move right along to the reorganizational items. So, Peter, can I just make a motion to move A1 through A16? Can I do them at the same time, or no? One at a time? Okay. So I make a motion to pass A1 through A16.
Second.
Michelle seconded that. Again, we're going to go through these items a little quicker. They were posted on Friday, so we've had an opportunity to look at them. Does anybody have any discussion on any of the items in A1 through A16? No? Any questions over here? Nope. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? There you go, Peter.
Duly noted, reorg items A1 through 16 pass 8-0.
Excellent. Okay, great. Moving on to motions and designations, B1 through B37. I'm making a motion to pass B1 through B37. Does anybody have any questions on those items?
Which ones? B1 to 37? B30s.
Everybody good? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Duly noted, reorg agenda items B1 through B37 pass 8-0.
Excellent. Okay, and the final item is C1, which is the committees which haven't changed recently. So I make a motion to pass C1.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Excellent.
Duly noted, agenda item C1 passes 8-0.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so we're over to the regular agenda now, Board President's comments. I'm going to pass on that in the interest of time and send it right over to Dr. LaSousa for administrative report.
Thank you, Ms. Weber. The first item under my report is just consideration of the 2024-2025 school calendars. You have 3 first drafts in your folder that you can take a look at. The primary difference in the 3 calendars that we've drafted initially is whether or not to have a full week off in February. If we don't have a full week off in February and just have an extended weekend around President's Day weekend, then we would end the school year a little bit earlier, and we would also potentially bump up spring break to be the first week of April / last week, begin the last week of March and the first week of April, versus when it was this year, which was the second week of April. So you can take a look at that, and we can certainly discuss it now, or you can wait until board business to talk it over. And of course, you can make any changes that you want, and just let me know if you want me to begin circulating it or not, and then target either the May board meeting or the June board meeting as adoption for the 24-25 school year.
Okay. If it's okay with everybody, I'd like to punt this to the board business. A lot of wanted me to bring up something as it relates to federal holidays versus some of the other holidays. So if you wouldn't mind, if we just table this till board business, and then we can move ahead with the regular business. Is that okay with folks? Yep. Okay, great. So Mike, we're going to circle back
Okay.
with this in board business.
Okay, perfect. And the second item for me is just a final update this school year on the start time change at the high school. So I'm going to ask everyone to go to the seats for just about 10 minutes, no more than that, and we'll move ahead after that.
Will cake be served?
It's coming down. All right, so there have been 2 other meetings this year where I just gave an update and overview of where we were with the change in the high school start time, because that was probably the most significant initiative that we undertook this school year. The first update, if you remember, was right around Halloween, and it was kind of a temperature check for the high school students to see how they were doing and how they found things. Overall, the feedback was very positive. The second update came right after the second semester, because we had data on student attendance, student timeliness to school, and grades through the first semester, and we compared that for the prior 10 years. You can see those presentations online. This is the third update, and this is the update that reflects the surveys of students that we've been doing every other year, roughly, since about 2015. So way back when we began this, we surveyed students. We created our own survey our student assistance counselors did. And then we started kind of a cycle where we tried to do it every other year. I just want to point out that the survey has changed over time, so I don't have data. It's not like we've administered the exact same survey each of these times through, all 5 times. Many of the questions have been the same, some have not, so what I'm about to show you draws on some of the data that we have that's consistent over the 5 surveys, and some that maybe we've only been doing the last 2 or 3 times. But you can see at the bottom here, at the last bullet, this school year, we had about an 80% response rate. Keeping in mind this is a voluntary survey, requires parent consent, so 80% was a pretty good response. So first thing that I'll show is just the pattern of students and the sleep that they report, and this goes back to 2016. The 2 blue bars are the ones that we want to be increasing. And you can see that there was really an inflection point with changing the time the high school started. So one of the first, knee-jerk reactions when you say it's important to start the high school day later is that some folks say, well, students will just sleep the same amount. They're just going to go to bed later, get up later. Every study about this shows that that's not true, and now we can add to that list. Since we made the change, more students are reporting sleeping 8 or more hours, and the number of students or the percentage of students who are reporting sleeping fewer than 6 hours or 6 hours or fewer has declined. And this is in grades 6 through 12. So I'm going to get to some high school specific stuff in a second. If we kind of aggregate it to 8 or more hours, 7 hours, and then the red line being 6 or fewer, you can see that we were trending in the wrong direction up until this year, and now this year we've trended in a positive direction. So students are sleeping more overall. This is a look at male-female, and you can see that we still have a gap in between male students and female students with respect to how much they're reporting sleeping, but nonetheless, improvements on both sides. These are some of the questions related to mental health, and you can see we're sort of trending in not the best direction, and we're heading back, hopefully, in a more positive direction. This is a question about having felt so sad and helpless for 2 weeks that you stop doing your normal activities. And I should point out, I'll mention it now, but of course sleep or start times is only one variable. We've been trying to do lots of other things. Of course, the pandemic is not what it was. 2021, we were in the throes of a very unusual school year. This school year, we're not in those throes. And we've, of course, implemented many, many programs related to school counseling and mental health under the leadership of Dr. Sortino. So it's not only one thing that hopefully is starting to create a positive trend, but probably multiple variables. This is a question about whether a student has seriously considered committing suicide. And again, going back so that you can tell that this was consistent prior to the pandemic, the number, and this is the first year where we see a little bit of movement in the direction that we want to see. We feel good about this. This is a question about feeling like you can't cope, and you can see we popped up there in 2021, and now we're starting to trend. Hopefully it's a trend line that continues as we continue to survey students. This is CHS specific, so you can see where the blue bars are exceeding the red ones, the blue representing this current school year, and the red representing 2021 and 2015. And you can see the blue bars are a little taller than the red ones for sleeping 7, 8, or 9 hours, and the blue bars are not quite as tall for less than that. These are the reports from male students. Our male students report sleeping more than our female students, but we have a positive trend in both directions. CHS specific suicide consideration. This is male, female, and students who report as non-binary, but a cautionary tale with the non-binary report is that the N is very different between 2021 and 2023. But still, if you look at all three groups, there's a decline in all three groups about the consideration of suicide. This is the report of feeling great stress. All students, this would be male students, and it's the great stress, that set of bars all the way to the right, that we most care about, and that's female students. So female students continue to report feeling much more stress than male students, but there's been a decline in the past couple of years. So I just wanted to make sure we got that in before this school year ended. In May, we have a report on the report of the graduates from Dr. Walker. In June, we have our annual discipline report. And then when we start the year again in September, roughly, Dr. Sortino and some of her team will do a comprehensive presentation about all of the health survey questions that are pertinent or important, and may include some of this, but will expand upon substance use and other questions. So thank you very much. It's good stuff.
Nick? Oh, great, thanks. Thank you, Mike, for that presentation. I think one of the most important things that you said, I mean, the trends are great. One of the most things that resonated with me was it's not one thing. It's not just the sleep. You know, Dr. Sorrentino and Dr. Donahue and all the staff, you know, cast a wide net on targeting what's troubling the kids and what's going to move the needle. I would hope that the survey isn't going to be the same year over year over year, because things change. What bothers them change. I would think that you would not be doing your job properly if the survey was the same every 5 years and you didn't change it, you know, depending on what's, you know, the hot button. So I look forward to the full report. Certainly the trends are going in the right direction. There's always room. I mean, 5% that considered suicide is, I know it's a low number, but for the kid that's considering suicide, it's critical. So that, you know, the goal is 0. So I don't know, you know, how to get from here to there. I don't know if anybody else had a comment. Michelle, I don't know if you're seeing any trends from an educational point of view.
No, I think, you know, I think we're doing everything we can, and there's always room for improvement, and there's more. But I think by allowing our kids the opportunity to have more sleep, by providing the services that are being served, you know, given to them and giving them a voice in the process is very important.
Right. The only thing I would ask is you analyze the programs that maybe aren't hitting the mark and aren't, you know, we only have so many resources. So we want to spend as many of our resources as we can are the programs that are really hitting home, the programs that are really moving the needle. So that's the only thing I would just ask for an evaluation of, you know what, this was good 3 years ago, but it's not going to fit the bill now. That was great during COVID, but we have a different set of problems, and we need to jettison that program and focus our energies on 3 maybe new ones. So I would just ask that you be cognizant of what's not working and move the resources, you know, swiftly and be as nimble as you can. Because you get a kid in high school for 4 years and that's it, you're done. We miss our opportunity and, you know, who knows? So I just ask that you be nimble and check what's working and what's not. Susan?
Me? Any insight that you can give on why the stress levels for the girls are just so much higher, and are they seeking out more counseling at all, or anything? I know that trend has been continuing for the past few years since I've seen these surveys, but.
That's a challenging question. I do, you know, we have really looked a lot at the fact that females seem to be more stressed and sleeping less, and we are targeting the counseling services towards that. Turnstile, which is the system that the counselors use to log when students come to visit, definitely shows a lot of female visitors. That is something that we're looking towards for next year and how we target more services towards females.
Thanks.
I'll mention, Susan, that that's a national trend. The CDC just published a really big report about national rates of visits to emergency rooms, reports of suicide, ideation, anxiety, depression. All of them were higher for female students. I read a study a few months back, and it was from Europe, and there were a couple of researchers from a university in Spain, and they looked at the rollout of universal access to broadband. And what they found, the headline figure was that broadband access correlated with an increase in emergency room visits for suicide ideation and acute depression. But it was driven entirely by females. And there were hypotheses about why that was, like it was the males may have been more likely, and these were adolescents and younger, more likely to be engaged in video games, but perhaps, again, just a hypothesis, females were more likely to be on social media. So nationally and even internationally, there's a lot of thinking about this and why it is that these rates are higher among female students or female adolescents than they are among males. We don't have any definitive answers, but are continuing to try to figure out why it is.
Thank you.
Excellent. Any other questions for Mike or Dr. Sortino on any of those topics? And you said the full report is August, September-ish timeframe?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Perfect. Okay, great. Okay, Mike, I'm sorry, you still have the
Yeah,
floor.
the third item from me is a presentation from our partners at Synergistic. I'm actually going to turn to Peter to see if he can introduce the two guests that we have with us, and then they'll take to the microphone very quickly.
Sure, we have one of the supervisors and managers at Synergistic, Scott Muir, and the district representative who spends a lot of time in the district, basically when none of the employees are here, Jason Rivera. So, gentlemen.
All right. Okay, good evening. So, as Mike said, I'm Scott Muir. This is Jason Rivera, and we're with Synergistic. So, Synergistic is an energy conservation company that helps school districts save money on their utilities so that they can spend it where it matters most. And thanks to the support of this Board of Education, Superintendent Dr. LaSousa, Business Administrator Pete DeQuilla, and the dedicated efforts of all the school principals, head of Buildings and Grounds John Cataldo, as well as his hardworking maintenance and custodial team, the school district has successfully decreased energy consumption in our schools since partnering with Synergistic in 2018. As a result, the school district of the Chathams is being recognized by the United States Environmental Protection Agency's Energy Star. Much like an appliance in a home earns the Energy Star label, buildings are also awarded certification on energy efficiency. A building earning Energy Star building certification has met the strict energy performance standards set by the EPA and uses less energy, is less expensive to operate, and emits fewer greenhouse emissions. To qualify for Energy Star building certification, a building must score in the top 25% of its peers based on the EPA National Energy Performance Rating System. These awards are significant because it's recognized by the United States Environmental Protection Agency for excellence in energy efficiency, acknowledges the district's superior stewardship of its finances and our environment, and honors each person in our organization for all the hard work and commitment in sustaining an exemplary energy conservation program. So Synergistic is proud and honored to announce that the School District of the Chathams has 2 buildings that earn the EPA's Energy Star certification for superior energy performance. Chatham High School with a score of 84 out of 100, and Southern Boulevard Elementary School with a score of 85. This means that it is more energy efficient than 85% of elementary schools nationwide. So on behalf of the United States Environmental Protection Agency and all of us at Synergistic, congratulations on the significant recognition, and we're very proud of our partnership with the district and your commitment to protect the environment both today and for future generations. So thank you.
Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Peter, what's happening in the other 4 buildings?
They were very close.
Do they get like
So
a little
we'll get
award?
them this year. Sorry?
Do they get like a little award, the other 4 buildings?
Unfortunately, no. They're pretty harsh, the EPA.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So, Pete, do you mind if I come down and
That'd be great.
collect these awards for both schools?
It gives the other 4 buildings something to shoot for then. It's a very competitive district. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming out tonight. Thank you for your partnership. You're not signing our charter away, right, Peter? Thank you, Riley. Oh, my God. Mike, did you have any additional items you wanted to report on? Thank you, gentlemen. Nobody's going to hold it against you if you sneak right out the door.
That's it from my end.
Okay, very good. Does anybody have any questions for Dr. LaSousa on any of his topics? No. Not that you can't circle back and ask. Peter, we're going to punt it over to you for the business administrator and construction update.
Sure. Very quickly, just started and have been busy doing the groundwork for the planning of the construction projects for this summer. Have a meeting, a preliminary roof meeting Wednesday, as you know, to get the planning kicked off for the roofing at at the high school and Lafayette School. That's all I have.
Okay, great. Any questions for Peter? Nope. Okay, great. We're going to pass it over to Riley now for the student liaison report.
Hey, okay. Nothing to report in athletics. Obviously, the spring season started, but that was at our last meeting. I don't have it written down, actually, but the baseball team is playing at the Somerset Patriots Stadium tonight. I don't know if that's how that one works, if it's school or if it's parents that get that all together, but that's a pretty cool experience for all of them. Performing arts-wise, the spring musical, Beauty and the Beast, all 4 nights were sold out. And it is also spring concert season, so schools have concerts during the day and the night over the next couple of weeks. You can check the performing arts calendar for specific dates and times. I think most of the elementary schools are during the day, and like the high school has a lot of their concerts at night. Clubs and extracurricular-wise, past events just throughout the district. The Harlem Wizards game against the faculty here was a huge success. PTO organized it. I did get to ref that game. That was fun. There was walk to school and waste-free lunch day on April 5th at the elementary schools. That was another huge success. Some upcoming events. Internship for the seniors is starting May 15th, and Staff Appreciation Week is May 1st through May 5th. I also got to attend the Student Advisory Committee meeting. It's like a bunch of students, including our council at the high school, who meet with the administration just to talk through like issues, new things that have been resolved, things they want to see. So just some updates from that. They have resolved a couple of the issues. A bunch of the clocks weren't working at the high school. They got on that. AC and heating has been fixed in a bunch of the classrooms as well. Some new business, calendar-wise, the senior picnic got moved to June 6th instead of the 9th because of the change in the last day of school. They also installed Wi-Fi in our outdoor patio, which is like right outside our library. So students go there during lunch and stuff. And the connection used to not be so great, but they got like, I guess, another router, or whatever. Computer standardized testing. It's kind of a new thing that they're doing. I know the College Board's trying to do it. For NJGPA, they had about like 200 kids in the C-Gym, and Wi-Fi held up. There was no issues or anything. It was the first time that they had tested that many kids electronically in one room like that, so it was successful. Looking to continue that model in the future with the SAT and ACT moving to computerized testing, keeping our school in those groups. An issue that kids brought up, the high school administration is looking at it. It's not necessarily a board issue, but with this later start time, students, athletes are missing afternoon classes, and a lot of kids like me do appreciate that later start time, but trying to figure out how to minimize missing class as their season goes on, especially when it's continuing later if they're going into playoffs and everything. And then this is my last item. I was reached out to just get a feel for it about a class field trip for the class of 2024. Student council just wanted to get a feel about how the board felt about this before beginning to plan. They wanted to run a potential student-funded class field trip to the amusement park next fall, kind of similar to the Six Flags physics field trip at the end of the year. So it's student-funded, get teachers or parents volunteer to chaperone, and would take place on like a Saturday, they're saying a weekend. So it wouldn't take away from a school day, but they're trying to get more bonding experiences for like class-wide. So that was just an idea they wanted me to run by.
Thank you, Riley. Thank you, Riley. I appreciate that. That's good feedback on the start time. I look forward to hearing what the high school has to say. And maybe Susan Ross can follow. Sorry, Susan, as head of curriculum, maybe you can circle back with Dr. LaSousa and Dr. Walker. There's only so many minutes in a day, and we don't want to mess up too much of the start time. But, maybe there's something that could be tweaked. So that's great feedback. The student field trip, that's interesting. Of course, I go white when you say that because the liability, half the class is 18, and I'm just scared to death of that one. So I look forward to hearing how they're going to work out some of that. You can imagine the challenges of a Saturday out of school, 18-year-olds that we have, So kindergarten field trip, way easier. But thank you. Fantastic feedback. Does anybody have any, feedback? I'm thinking of sports. Does anybody have any questions for Riley on any of those items? Any thoughts, Dr. LaSousa? You're good? You're good. Okay.
Good for now.
Good for now. Uh-oh. That's a hill circle back with you, Riley. Riley said that's scary for her. Excellent. And I was chomping at the bit to mention the play, but I knew you were going to mention it. The play, oh my God, I know I say this every time. I think this was my favorite.
People were saying it was the best one that they've ever put on.
I mean,
It was so good.
So good,
Wasn't it amazing?
I couldn't get to it. It was all sold out.
It was also, you couldn't sneak in, like back door and just stand over there?
I think the night I went, it was the
I was
senior.
going to say, maybe I could pull the Board of Ed
Yeah.
card.
Yeah, can you turn on
You
Michelle's
can.
mic?
The night I went, it was the senior citizen dinner night, but you saw literally it was like the age range of our entire town. There were little kids in princess costumes all the way up to the seniors who had come to participate in the dinner, which there were many, many, many of them. And that's a huge undertaking, but I really feel like this particular play really brought out kind of a community bonding experience for all. There were preschoolers. It was amazing. So
Yeah.
I was incredibly proud.
It was great. I went to the Friday night show,
Yeah.
and it was similar. I was
good.
sitting with Mike Ryan and his family were right next to us.
So good.
But it was fantastic. I mean, the play was just great. The sound was great. And there's 732 seats, and they were sold out all plays for every show. So
This is biased because I work at Scoops, but they did have a Beauty and the Beast Sunday, and it was raising money. The way they do it is if like a Sunday, $6, $1 goes back to the performing arts program here for every Sunday they sell. So that was another huge hit, just another way of seeing like our whole community kind of come together to support the performing arts program. It was just a cool thing to see. And people were like trying to substitute what was in the Sunday, but still wanted to pay for it, performing arts, because they wanted to raise money for this program after seeing that musical. So
fantastic. Yep. Performing arts can always use some extra money. Okay, great. Any other questions on any of those topics? Okay, we're going to head over to committee reports. Personnel, Ms. Ciccarelli?
We met on May 4th, and we discussed 2 personnel issues. We talked about negotiations, and we talked about the plan moving forward for the search for a CMS principal in light of Jill Jaworski's upcoming retirement. And we are meeting again on May 24th.
Great. Any questions for Ann on any of those items? Nope. Okay, over to you, Ms. Ross, for curriculum.
The curriculum committee also met on April 5th. A good portion of our meeting was spent listening to the report on the high school graduates given by Dr. Walker, and I believe that will be presented at our May meeting for the public to listen to. The update on our continuing rollout of the health and PE standards letters went out to Lafayette last week. Grade 2 will be emailed in early May, and the opt-out rate remains very low at about 1% of students at the middle school and the high school choosing not to take the lesson. We discussed the educator retreat, which is an annual orientation for new staff. The expectation this year is that it will be smaller due to the number of reduced hires year over year. And there is a new literacy program, abbreviated LLI, Leveled Literacy Intervention. This is going to be a supplemental program for special ed students in the K to 3 grades to provide more support for those special needs kids that are struggling with reading. And currently there is training underway for the special ed teachers, and this will be rolled out next year. We had a preliminary look at the plans for full-day kindergarten. The good news is that with lower enrollment across the K to 3 schools, there is more classroom space. So the current plan right now is to run 2 full classes at all 3 schools. But of course, we're still looking at the numbers as people enroll through the summer. And then finally, in world languages, there is going to be a reduced number of German section at the high school due to lower enrollment and interest in that language. And that's it. I'll take any questions.
Excellent. Any questions for Susan on any of those topics?
Okay.
Susan, do we know when we'll have the final numbers, or we won't know until,
For kindergarten?
summer?
I don't think until June, correct? Or through the summer, really?
They're never really final.
No,
Right.
but at some point you have to decide how many classes you're running.
Well, we've made the determination that we'll do the 2 full days at
At
each
each?
building.
Okay.
Those folks on the waiting list were notified today. And then we will continue to monitor the number of students that register from here on out, and they'll go into one of our half-day sections, and we have those available at every building.
Okay, great. Okay, perfect.
How did the numbers pan out from the people who had applied for full day versus those on the waiting list after you added the extra sections?
We've essentially moved everyone who registers into the full-day lottery. We made that change because we found that every family basically wanted full day. So we have about 75 total kindergarten registrants at Washington and Southern. So 44 of them will be, roughly, will be put into the full-day program, and then the balance of roughly 30 will go into half-day sections, and that 30 will grow as we move, probably grow as we move through the summer. At Milton, we have 60 registrants, so 44 roughly will go into the full-day programs, and then the balance will be in a half-day section, and we'll continue to monitor to see how many families continue to register through the summer.
Got it.
I just want to verify, I don't know if it's for Peter or for Mike, that any family who's accepted into the full-day program through the lotteries, since everybody goes in, they're not denied access to the program based on ability to pay? Can you clarify how that works?
Any student who qualifies for free or reduced lunch is given the green light
Okay.
into the program.
Okay, and then my other concern is, or just something that I want us to be watching, I want to watch as we move these students up to first grade, monitor where are these kids coming in, since we are offering these programs for full day and that some children are having the AM, PM, the half-day experience. I want to make sure that all of our first graders are landing on equal footing at the start of first grade.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions for Susan? Excellent. Okay, to the man of the hour, Bradley, Finance and Facilities.
Yes, Finance and Facilities, we met on the 19th. We spoke about the preliminary budget and moving it forward to a final budget, which we're voting to adopt tonight. We had a pleasant surprise from Mr. D'Aquila regarding the health benefit update. The dental renewal actually came in lower than expected, so he saved us some money there. We also spoke about full-day kindergarten and staffing for next year. And then we've begun to speak a little bit about negotiations, which we'll continue speaking about later.
Okay. Was the health benefit up year over year, or just wasn't up as much as you anticipated?
The health benefit increase remained what we had budgeted at 8.8%. The dental, which was budgeted at 3%, came in at 2%.
Okay.
And the good news on the dental is that 2%, agreeing to a 2% increase for next year gave us a lock of 0% and 0% for the 2 subsequent years. So we took a one-time 2%, so we'll be flat for 3 school years.
Okay, that's great. I wish that was on the 8%.
Yeah, me too.
I know. So Bradley, that's great that it's only 8%. We were thinking it was going to be double digits, but we're still locked in at 2%, so there's a 6% funding gap. You know, that's the
Right.
struggle that we always have.
That's
We're saying,
correct.
woohoo, it's only going up 8%, but
That's right.
our budget only goes up 2%.
Right, and we've spoke about that at length. It's been very well telegraphed that we've got a major budget issue here. And when the budget initially was, the first draft of the budget, if you will, was almost double what we ended up putting forward and we will vote on tonight. It was
Right.
close to 3.8%. And it's due to rampant inflation, which we've talked about at length. It's due to other inputs, an increase in the special education budget, et cetera. Nothing surprising that we haven't talked about. And the reality is, we kept this budget that we're going to vote on tonight at 2%, the same that we've kept it for the last 5 years. And this came with, it resulted in a lot of cuts to staffing, to programming, to facilities. And there simply wasn't enough money left over for things such as facilities.
Right.
And that's why, you know, we had a couple of questions in regards to the second question, and that's why we are going to the voting public on that second question for the security vestibules, which we feel are very, very, very important at this time for obvious reasons. And we're proud that we came through with a 2% budget, no increase, for the last 5 years, despite this rampant inflation and all these inputs that are going higher.
Excellent. Very good. Thank you. I appreciate the work that Peter and Mike and the Finance Committee does. I don't sit on that committee, so I know it's a slog. And I know you've been managing to the decrease in enrollment. As some teachers or administrators retire, you don't backfill.
Of course.
Dr. LaSousse has combined some administrative positions. So if you look over the last 5 years, it's a very lean organization. It gets leaner each year.
That's right.
So when you say cut programs, it's not necessarily, you know, direct student impact, but it's just using some of the administrative resources a little bit.
That's correct.
You know, as wisely as possible. I mean, at some point, you're going to hit bone.
Right, at some point, it all comes back.
Right. I mean, you can only cut so much without it having an impact, but.
Right.
Okay, fantastic. Does anybody else have any questions? Or anybody else on the Finance Committee want to make a comment? No. Okay, great. Nothing. Okay, great. Thank you, Bradley. Mr. Ryan, over to you, Policy and Planning.
Yes, policy met on the 19th as well. We continue to discuss how to merge the Strauss SMA policies in with the New Jersey School Board policies. Amanda Feeman from Dr. LaSousse's office is working on a strategy to adopt all of the NJSBA policies at once. The difficulty is that a particular topic could be mentioned in 3 of our current policies.
Oh.
And whereas New Jersey SBA, it's only in 1 policy. So we have to figure out
Right.
which of our, take a particular topic, which of our policies, language in that topic, we may want to change in the SBA policies. So it's a little bit of a workaround, but we're getting there. We should be done by the next school year, by this school year coming up, September.
Got it. Okay.
And we should adopt them all at once. So we'll rescind the existing policies
And
and
then
adopt the new ones
adopt
at
them.
once.
Okay. I think it's great that you're streamlining them. I mean, some of those policies may have been out there since the schools merged in '86.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
It's good that we're streamlining the policies and some of the regulations. Probably many of them haven't been looked at since the 2 schools merged, the 2 districts merged in '86.
Yeah, they're very old.
So it's good that we're taking a look at those. So thank you, Mike, for that. Any questions for Mr. Ryan on any of the policies or the effort going on? Great. Thank you to Amanda for picking up the sword on that one.
Yeah, and we also discussed the memorandum of agreement with Morris County Community College, which is an agreement to potentially use MCC as a reunification site in the event of a disaster of some sort here in Chatham where we had to release the students to an alternate site and then reunify them with their parents. And that's on the agenda tonight for
Okay, that's
adoption.
great. Yeah, it's good to have. It's good to have and never need. It's my understanding, Mike, or either Mike, that the other 50 districts in the county are also involved in that.
It's available to every other district in the county. Not all of them are using CCM.
Okay.
Some have their own alternative arrangements already.
Okay.
But more and more are coming on as we've worked through the process.
Okay.
So we are certainly not alone.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Again, it's good to have and never use. Anything else, Mike, Ryan?
No, that's it.
All good. Any questions for Mike? Nothing. Excellent. Okay, we're moving on to the liaison reports. I just have a quick update on the borough meeting. Mike Ryan and I met with some of the borough council. The other two borough Board of Ed members were not available. They had a conflict, so we'll probably circle back and meet again. It was productive, but, we didn't, no decisions have been made. We just provided a lot of context on both sides, our priorities, their priorities. A lot of this won't even unfold until 2025 because no revenue for the borough or anybody is going to be seen until that's fully occupied. So it was productive. We have some more discussions, no decisions. But it's certainly in the best interest of, the municipalities have their budget, the school has their budget, everybody's trying to do the right thing for the town. It's just a matter of, how we make that work out. But everybody's trying to row in the right direction, in the same direction, and do what's right for everybody. So I don't have an additional update. Mr. Ryan, did you have anything else you wanted to add to that?
No, that pretty much summed it up. I mean,
Okay.
It's still an ongoing discussion.
Perfect. Okay, great. Thank you. Anybody else have any items they want to mention? Susan? Nothing? Nothing to the left? Michelle, you're good? Okay, great. Perfect. We're going to move the minutes. Ann and Dr. Zhang, if you wouldn't mind abstaining. I'd like to make a motion to, I'm sorry, what?
And Ms. Clark.
Oh, you were out too? Oh, while the four of you were out, by the way, we assigned you a whole bunch of tasks. You'll see those in your inbox. Well, four of you were out. We were a little FOMO going on here. Okay, I didn't realize Ms. Clark also had to abstain. So I would like to make a motion to move the minutes of March 20th, the public and executive sessions.
Second.
Second over here. All those in favor?
Aye.
Abstain? Anybody oppose the minutes? There you go, Peter.
Got it. 1, 2, 3.
I messed up the order.
Minutes past 5:03.
Perfect, great. Thank you. Sorry it's taken a while. We're at our first opportunity for public commentary. Hearing of the citizens of the public commentary section of the agenda is an opportunity for any member of the public to be heard about issues which are or are not topics of the schedule for tonight's meeting. To help facilitate an orderly meeting and to permit all to be heard, speakers will be asked to limit their comments to a reasonable length of time. And again, this is not a back and forth. We won't be answering questions in line, but we'll try and address anything we can after we close the public session. So if you could introduce yourself and sign in on the worksheet up there, that would be fantastic. So the floor is yours, and we won't be interrupting.
Okay, so hello, my name is Marianne Masumi.
And I'm James Hitchings. We're staff members at Chatham Middle School. I teach in the Design and Technology Department.
And I'm a social studies teacher. We're also members of the Chatham Education Association. We just wanted to take a moment to highlight the positive work association members have been doing. The association continues to use Pride and FAST grants to provide meaningful experiences for the community. This included the Senior Citizen Dinner after the Spring Musical at CHS, which was mentioned earlier, and the installation of the free little libraries at our elementary schools. Most recently, we completed another successful food drive through the association to provide non-perishable goods and hygiene products to Chatham United Methodist Church's food pantry.
We'd also like to take a moment to recognize the CHS US History 1 students in Mrs. Sam, Miss Finnegan's, and Miss Connor's classes. They participated in the Hamilton Education Program National Competition. The goal of the program is to help students see the relevance of the founding era by using primary sources to create a performance piece, such as a song, a rap, a poem, or a scene, following the model used in Lin-Manuel Miranda's musical Hamilton. Ms. Connors had a student group that was selected for Outstanding Performance Piece, one of only 10 in a national competition. They are headed to New York City next week to see Hamilton and tour the Gilder Lehrman Primary Source Vault with the other winners from across the country.
As mentioned, we are both teachers at Chatham Middle School. So at the middle school, we've continued to hold monthly Workout Wednesday fundraisers. To date, this school year, we have raised over $1,000 for various charitable causes. Coming up, we're looking forward to having the Spring Fling Dance at CMS next Friday, seeing our students' talents at the annual CMS Talent Show later in May, as well as seeing the work of our amazing artists at the District Art Show. We are also looking forward to seeing the community come out and support CMS musicians at their upcoming spring concerts as well. We would like to say thank you to the teachers who work incredibly hard to plan these events, and also all and all the teachers who rearrange their schedules to volunteer as chaperones and make these events possible. Our goal remains the same as always, to show students and their families that people in a community should support each other.
We'd like to take just a brief moment to discuss some of the happenings and changes at CMS. Over recent board meetings, we've had discussions pertaining to moving the 5th grade and how making that change would help to ensure that there would not be staff loss. The board has also discussed teacher shortage, as well as obviously the budgetary concerns from next year. We totally understand many of these concerns, and we also understand Ms. Weber's comments that sometimes the only way to recover money is to cut benefits or staff. There's been various non-renewals and involuntary transfers, and of course these are probably necessary to the process, and we understand that the board and administrators have the prerogative to make those choices. We do want to express that these changes have had a toll on the mental health and wellness of the staff in our building, due in part to them conflicting with the various messages we've received this year. We know things change constantly, that there's a need to go in different directions than what we planned, and we know choices are difficult. We just hope that in the future, there can be a bit more transparency so the staff does not suffer even more than during what is already an extremely difficult transition process. In the district that values mental health as we do, we think it would be helpful to, as a staff, kind of continues to provide or pursue our most important goal, to have the best possible education for the students in the district. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Anne Marie O'Donnell, and I live in the Milton section of town. And first of all, I'd like to thank Bridget McMenamin for spreading the word of tonight's meeting, because I don't have any children, so I don't get much exposure to the activities of this group. But I do thank you very much for your time, and I know it takes a lot of time to run the schools here in Chatham, and we all value the education that's provided here. I would ask a couple things as not only a resident of Chatham, but someone who works in technology today. I would advocate that we step away from technology as much as we can and go to more engaging with conversation and people. People are the reason we educate. We do not educate for technology. On some level, I do agree with Elon Musk's recent comments about the dangers of artificial intelligence. We don't want to educate for machines. We want to educate our people. Not having any children myself, I will be reliant on the children of other parents. So while you may think I do not care as much for your children, I may care more in some situations. So I ask that you continue your good work and focus on learning. And if you could keep in mind what goes on in some of the ratings. I noticed recently on Realtor.com, they have a great schools rating. And I'm always a little concerned when I see the dip in the rating as it pertains to the middle school. So I'm not sure what really goes into that rating, but I ask that you might consider looking at it a little bit, just to make sure that our education is consistent amongst all the grades. And again, thank you very much for your good work and time.
Thank you.
Hello, my name's Kara Firth, and I am a mom at Washington Avenue School. I have a daughter in kindergarten currently and another daughter who's going into kindergarten next year, and then one who will be 2025's class, and then a fourth on the way. I first want to start by saying thank you for everything that you guys do. We've had a great experience thus far at Washington. Today was very disappointing from a mom standpoint. Oh, sorry. Hormones. The lack of communication and consideration that's given to kindergarten families is really disheartening. It's wonderful that 132 kids in the district are going to be receiving full-day kindergarten. It's maddening when you start fielding phone calls from other families that, oh, did you get in? Did you not? Like, what have you heard? I heard nothing from Washington. And I've talked to people at other schools, that's the same thing. I understand you're letting people in off of wait lists, but to not tell the remaining people who are on wait lists that a second class is opening, it makes us feel like complete second-class citizens. And the fact that in March, 60 families in the school district knew what their next year was going to be, awesome for them. It's now April, 132 families know, and I've been told we're not going to know until June whether or not we're AM or PM. If you can't provide full-day kindergarten for our kids, I at least should be able to plan my year to give my child a quote-unquote full-day experience. I do that currently with my oldest. I would like the same opportunity for my younger one, and because you're having 50 more kids go into this, these other enrichment programs hang in the balance and wait for you to make your decisions so that they know how many kids they have, can they run? I mean, it's a numbers game for everyone across the board, and it's really, really frustrating to not know what your future looks like for your child. Again, I'm happy that more people are able to be in full-day kindergarten. When I look at the numbers, it seems like you have more kids in kindergarten next year than you do currently, so I don't understand that. According to the information that was given at your board meeting on March 6th, there were 189 kids currently enrolled in kindergarten. I just did the math when you were talking earlier. It put it at 210. I don't understand that. And I just want to come here to plead for you to please talk and reconsider letting the remaining 30% of families know before June. I understand more people move to the district, things can flux and change. That's always the case. There's not 40 new kids entering kindergarten coming in the next 3 months. And if you can open the lines of communication with the families who are still waiting, a little bit would really go a long way. And that's all that I have to say.
Hi, everyone. My name is Christine Cairns. I am also the parent of an elementary school student who is at Southern Boulevard, and I have 2 younger children. I'm going to piggyback on what my friend Kara had to say today. I think it's no longer up for debate that full-day kindergarten is the best option for our children. Dr. L'Souza, in your presentation, verbatim, you said the full-day program is superior. Lack of a full-day kindergarten is an instructional and programmatic weakness. In fact, it's the largest programmatic weakness that you've identified in the district. Today was a win for about 70% of children and their families who are entering kindergarten next year. And while I'm happy that the majority of children in Chatham will now reap the benefits of full-day kindergarten, for others like my daughter next year and myself and the rest of my family, today was frustrating and upsetting. Full-day kindergarten in Chatham used to be a bonus for a minority of children who were singled out as lucky in the lottery. This year, we are left with a small minority of children who are at a disadvantage, who were singled out as unlucky in a lottery. Dr. LaSousa, Board of Education, I'd just like to know what you have to say to those of us unlucky families. Why can't full-day kindergarten be offered to every child in the district? We hear words like space and funding that are vaguely thrown out, but I would love to hear just a bullet point of concrete reasons why this program can't be offered to all students if it has been deemed what is in the best interest of these 5 and 6-year-old children just beginning their educational journeys. If space and funding are issues, have we investigated the option of trailer classrooms? They're more cost-effective and very flexible, that you don't require any construction costs or permanent building. And maybe these options have been discussed, but the rest of the public is not open to these conversations. So for us, we're left in the dark just wondering why our children are the ones who just happen to be unlucky. Lastly, as Kara alluded to, the timeline that information is made available and the lack of transparency in when we will know these decisions has also resulted in a situation where there may not be enough children for these wraparound programs. So these wraparound programs are parent funded, they're run by preschools, and truly there's the solution that remains to give the children who are left behind an even playing field. But now the amount of children who are able to attend full day this year, leaving behind only about 25 or 30% of the students, is threatening the viability of these programs. So now not only are the unlucky students whose names weren't drawn in the lottery, can they not attend full day, they may be left without an option for an enrichment opportunity. I know for myself, my daughter will be 6 at the start of the year. She's reading, she's been in 4 or 5 programs this year, and it loves school. Next year, she'll be going to school for less time than my 3-year-old. And it's upsetting, and as a mother, it feels awful knowing that potentially decisions I made about where we live and what school district we're in may be putting my child at a disadvantage. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Libby Hilsenrath, Chatham Borough, good evening. I just have some comments regarding the second proposal that's up for vote on the budget tonight. I'm sorry, separate proposal number 1 for $850,000 for construction costs to install security vestibules at each of the schools, which will be on the ballot to be voted on in November. Let me first start by saying, so that none of my comments are misconstrued, that I in no way disagree with constructing the security vestibules. As a matter of fact, I think they should have been done long ago, probably 2 or so years ago when you were discussing a referendum. They are absolutely necessary in order to protect our students and staff, and I think everyone in Chatham would agree with that. My issue is the way that we're funding them, not the fact that we're spending money to build them. And I believe there are alternative ways to fund building the vestibules. So as proposal number 1 is written in the budget, which is on the agenda for tonight for final approval, it represents a permanent increase in our tax levy of 1.23%. This means that, in case anyone here in the room or in the public doesn't know, if the board votes to approve this tonight, the voters will pass, and they pass it in November, every year going forward, our base budget will automatically be 1.23% more, and therefore, the allowable 2% tax levy increase will be based on a higher number, which means our taxes automatically go up based on that base budget. Versus if this first proposal was not on the ballot as a permanent tax levy increase. So please correct me if I'm wrong in my understanding of this, but that's the way I read it. The same principles on Proposal 2, which is about providing healthcare benefits for paraprofessionals who will be employees going forward, does represent an ongoing operational cost, whereas Proposal 1, which is a one-time construction cost for security vestibules, is not an ongoing cost. It should be a capital expenditure, a one-time cost, not a permanent increase in the tax levy. So I believe that $850,000 should be considered a capital expenditure, not an ongoing operational cost. So I think there are some alternatives that the board can consider before voting on the budget, the final budget put forward tonight. One is that the proposal, number one, could be a one-time ask, not a permanent tax increase. The second would be that the vestibules could be funding using our capital reserves account, which, as far as I can tell from the budget that I've looked at, is approximately $5 million. There are other construction costs that are up for budget tonight, which amount to about $2.5 million, which are roof repairs, HVAC repairs, and those are coming out of our capital funds, and they should. But I think there's certainly another $850,000 that could be found in our capital reserves that could be spent to construct these one-time vestibules. The third option would be to issue a referendum for the $850,000, as opposed to a second question with a permanent tax increase going forward. I know you guys have discussed over the last 2 years the possibility of a referendum. I haven't heard a good reason yet as to why, a clear reason, I should say, as to why you chose a second question with a permanent tax increase as opposed to a referendum. You can issue a referendum 5 different times per year. And a referendum would not represent a permanent tax increase in our base going forward. Most of our construction costs have been funded traditionally, and per the NJSBA, they should be, as we did in 2015, where we funded, I think it was 5 construction projects that were passed by the voters. The other option could be using ROD grant funds to pay for the construction costs. I don't know if that's possible. And the last option, as I see it, or alternative, is that the board is already cutting $500,000 in expenses in next year's budget. So out of an $86 million budget, $850,000 to secure these represents less than 1% of the overall budget, less than 1%. We spend, according to the budget that's posted online, the user-friendly budget, we spend about $44 million on administrative costs. We spend about $33 million on instruction, per what I can see in the general operating funds in the budget posted online. I think the board could go back and look at other ways to reduce administrative costs to find the funding for $850,000. Reduction of expenses, as was said at the March 20th meeting, does not exclusively mean cutting programs, as I've heard over and over and over again. This is not exclusive. Yes, I'm close to my 3 minutes, but so was everyone else.
I apologize for interrupting. Sorry, Nick. Thank you for turning my mic on. No, you're actually at 6 minutes. I'm just setting that as a time check if you could wrap it up.
I'll come back a second time, but other people were over the 3 minutes.
I actually clock it and I write it down.
That's fine. Should I come back the second comment?
If you'd like, or you could summarize. I mean, you hear your question. You want Bradley to talk
No,
about?
I have more details about a statute that I think is being...
Okay.
Okay, so I'll come back a second.
Come back. You mean the second commentary? Okay, very good. Thanks, Libby. I do tape and write down the numbers, so that was 6 minutes, 21 seconds.
Hi, I'm Amy Reale, and I live in Chatham, obviously. I'm here because I'm representing Chatham CPEG, which is the Special Education Parent Advisory Group. And we are gathering, I'm coming here to announce that we are gathering this Thursday at 7 p.m. in the high school library and media center. And this is an opportunity to look at our goals as a group for next year, to clap out any parents who may be closing their time at CPEG, and also to welcome new volunteers. We're always looking for new volunteers. In particular, we could really use some people to help with website, social media, making newsletters. The second thing I want to talk about, so please come Thursday. It's an informal meeting. It's nice to connect with other parents who may be having the same challenges, and I think we always find benefit in that. And then the second thing, I know that you can't clarify with me tonight, but I want to register the question, because one thing that CPEG has spent an extensive amount of time in is literacy, because probably 90 to 95% of the input we gather from families is families of struggling readers, which does match. It's 20% of our population. So I think I heard Dr. Ross say that there's going to be leveled literacy intervention used for special education students. And I don't know, maybe I heard that incorrectly, because I think we are using currently Wilson, so I'm not sure if you meant you're replacing the Wilson system or if the leveled literacy is just in basic skills. I know CEF gave a grant for readers, I think it was last year, maybe 2 years ago. So since this program, in at least the research I've done, is notoriously not recommended, and by third-party ed reports, and I think a lot of people have seen the reporting from Emily Hamford called Sold a Story, and this program was featured in there. I'm just wondering if that's something that's being introduced currently to our school district for special education students. And I'm signing my name here. I have my emails, so I know that we can't respond tonight, but I'm curious about that. And I would love to be able, if any special education families that we're meeting with Thursday have questions, if I could hear from someone before then, that would be really helpful. Thank you.
Thanks, Amy.
Good evening, Bill Heap, Chatham Borough. Lots of weighty things going on tonight. I'll be brief. 3 separate issues. First, a very brief review of Beauty and the Beast. I don't have a shred, not a stitch of theatrical talent. I can't sing, dance, or act. But having said that, I think I'm a pretty good audience, and I can recognize talent when I see it. Beauty and the Beast was spectacular. Nothing much else to be said about it. Congratulations to all involved. The end. Second issue, thank you to the school district for partnering with the Chatham JC's Fishwack Run in your wellness campaign. We want all of our teachers to be very healthy, and there's nothing like getting out and doing a little road work to make you more healthy. Fishwack race kicks off the Fishwack Festival Saturday. It's Saturday, June 10th, and it's a great family event. We hope to see a lot of our teachers out on the course. The only embarrassing thing is when one of your students might blow by you on the course. That's a little difficult to take. And one of the big questions is, will we see Dr. LaSousa out on the course this year? All the proceeds from our race go back into town. Things like the emergency squad, the fire department, the library, scholarship for a Chatham High School student, yada, yada, yada. So we hope to see you all out there on Saturday, June 10th. We expect to have a very nice day. Last item is kind of a business-related item. The school district, did the school district get an increase in state aid? Was it up, down, or neutral? If you could please let us know which it is. I'd appreciate it. Thanks, and good night.
Thanks, Bill. Great, thanks, everybody. We're going to close the public commentary, and, and I will answer what I can and punt to those that are far more knowledgeable than I am about items. Mary and James, thank you for coming out. I know you've had a super long day. Thanks for sharing all the great things going on. Thanks for listening to the Board of Ed meetings. I think, James, you said, well, it's our prerogative to do this or that. It's not a prerogative. It's a necessity in some cases. We're not looking to, stress anybody out or put another brick in your bag, but, I guess I'm a little sensitive. I took a little exception to the word prerogative versus, it's just a balancing act. We have so many resources. We have 600 staff members, close to 4,000 students, and, it's just a balancing act. And in some cases, with declining enrollment, some people said, oh, you know what, keep the librarian, even if they're sitting in an empty classroom. Bill Heap would say, are you kidding me? You're spending my tax dollars with an empty classroom? So we have to, and he's not on an island. I like to pick on Bill, but he's not on an island. So again, it's not a prerogative, it's just a matter of making the numbers work, and we're certainly not looking to stress you out or cause, nobody likes to be transferred to another building, but your new best friend might be at that next building. So I hope some of the folks take it on as maybe a next chapter or a challenge or an opportunity. So again, thank you for coming out, and if you want to sneak out, we totally get it. We are not looking to make the staff suffer, I promise you. It is not a goal. If, And we do the best we can, and so does the administration. Nobody's looking to torture anybody, for sure. And mental health is important for our students, for our staff. If our staff isn't on their game, our students suffer, and we get that. And again, I wouldn't last 5 minutes in your shoes, so I appreciate everything you all do. Moving on, Anne Marie, thank you for coming out. We do, I don't know if you've had, you mentioned you don't have kids, you're not necessarily tapped in, but if I can ask you to go back and look at a couple of meetings, we're very tuned into some of the negative effects that social media has had on our students and the well-being of our students. And we've taken that, you saw, I don't know if you were here at the beginning and saw some of the survey results. So we don't use technology. We don't encourage, them to be on TikTok and all that. In fact, we have some litigation going on to try and get some of the social media companies to change their habits, their algorithms, and put more control in the parents and not circumvent some of the parents' desires. So we hear you, and we appreciate that you understand that the kindergartners today are going to be working on our Social Security check, so we get that. The challenge there is, though, the kindergartners today, probably 60 to 70% of them, will work in jobs that don't exist today. So how do you educate those kids? So you have to use tools. These kids now in kindergarten are digital natives. They're not digital immigrants like myself. So we understand that the tools are here. Some of them are here to stay. AI is frightening, we get it, but it's a balancing act as well. So thank you, I appreciate you coming out tonight and making your comments. Dr. LaSousa may have more on that. Oh, I did need to comment on the ratings. Ratings go up and down, and it could just be simply that they changed the question. One year, New Providence, I think, was #1, and they dropped to like number 50 because of a single question that was changed. So it depends on the group putting it out. Some of them, it's funny, some of them reach out, well, if you donate or pay, we can get your rating higher. So we don't put a ton of credence in the ratings. We do listen to our teachers, we listen to our students, we do listen to some of the standardized testing that we do ourselves. So sorry, we don't put a lot of weight in, like you could be #1 one year and 57 the next because they changed the question. But thank you, I appreciate you for coming out. Kara and Christine, same thing. You have had similar comments on full-day kindergarten, and I apologize for the lack of communication. I'm going to have to circle back and find out, or maybe Dr. LaSousa can help clarify some of that, or we may have to circle back. So I apologize for the frustration. I do need to provide a little bit of history on full-day kindergarten. As you mentioned, it used to be the few lucky, and now it's the opposite. We had said nobody at this table's kids, including Riley, had full-day kindergarten. It just didn't happen. It didn't exist. It only started a few years ago, 5 years ago or so. And we knew that we could only provide so many, and we knew the enrollment was going to go down. So 20% 5 years ago, and then we got up to 40%, then 60%. Now we're at 70%. We had discussed, do we wait till we can get 100%? No, that's not the right thing to do. Okay, do we throw the baby out with the bathwater and say, the heck with it, we're just offering half-day, because you don't even have to offer kindergarten at all? No, that's not the right thing to do. Let's do the best we can, get as many kids as we can until we can get to full-day kindergarten. And as you know, we do have a plan to get to full-day kindergarten. It just won't happen for 2 more years. And the reason for that, I think, Kristen, you said, well, just put in trailers. Trailers are so cost prohibitive, it is frightening. I mean, there's so many regulations. You need permanent structures. You need utilities piped in. You need to have a concrete base. If you happen to ever be in West Orange, they still have trailers out there from when I lived there and I went to middle school, because once you put these permanent bases in, you can't get rid of them. So it's not as simple as just putting up a trailer. And the space that you need, and I'm going to ask Dr. LaSousa to weigh in a little bit more, but kindergarten space has to be a certain square footage, and they have to have bathrooms. So that's why we did the addition at Milton, and we've been planning this for the last 10 years. How do we get from 0 full-day kindergarten to full-day kindergarten? And is it going to take 10 years? Yeah, probably, and we're right on target. So we understand your frustration. We understand, there's going to be some unlucky few. I'm not willing to throw out the baby with the bathwater and say, you know what, if we can't have it for all, nobody's going to get it. It's not ideal. I hear you. It's not ideal. But some of the things you mentioned, we can improve on. We have to improve on communication. AM or PM, I'm going to have to ask Dr. LaSousa to maybe circle back on that. I don't know that he has an answer right now, but we should do better at communication. Sorry, I'm just checking my notes. Okay. Yeah, and I understand you, yes. So the timing, we definitely need to get you an answer sooner so you can plan ahead for any other enrichment program that you might need to supplement for your student. So I appreciate that. Libby, you had a question on the proposal of the second question, which we're not voting on anything tonight other than the budget. We're not voting on vestibules or the security, but Bradley, I'm going to send it over to you for...
We can add on that.
I'm out of my league in the budget discussion.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked a lot about referendum. We've talked about referendum for the last 4 years. Mr. DeQuilla has listed 15 to 20 different projects that we are in dire need of doing. We've applied to ROD grants for all those projects. The reality is, when we were looking at this budget this year, we could go above the 2% based on something. We have our bank cap, and then we also have the increased insurance. The budget that initially came to us, we could have put out with no vote and told the voters that we are going with almost double the increase that we're putting up tonight of 2%. We decided not to do that. That left projects that we would have liked to consider unfunded. And you spoke about the capital reserve. It would not be prudent to use the entire capital reserve on everything this year. So we are being very transparent and going to the voters and saying, this is the proposal for a second question. We are going to use this for a security vestibule, and it is our intention in the future to start ticking off those projects.
And I think there was a question on second question versus referendum to pay for that.
Right, so yeah, we could have also done a referendum. There are issues specific to the referendum that if the referendum fails, you can't use money within the capital reserve budget to pay for those things. And the security vestibules in particular this year, we felt were of immediate importance that needed to be done.
Thanks, Bradley. And just for the history on that, the reason we call it a second question is because originally, prior to 2015, in November, we used to vote on the budget. That would be considered the first question, and anything subsequent to that was a second or third or fourth. So we kind of use it glibly, but it just means anything that outside of the regular budget. We can call it, additional funding, but that's why it's traditionally called a second question. Peter, go ahead.
Sure. I wanted to add regarding a referendum, the cost that the district needs to incur for a referendum present almost like a break-even point, that if the referendum is less than $10 million, it's not really a good use of money to pay to issue a referendum. Yes, we could easily come up with $10, $20 million worth of projects. The issue that the Finance Committee and the board has been debating is we have some bonds already existing. We're trying not to burden the taxpayers with additional bond debt until some of the bonds mature. That's why we've been chipping away using capital reserve, and we determined to add money to the capital fund with the second question, which is only less than a 1.5% increase. Yes, it will be full-time, and as Mr. Smith said, the intention is that this extra money goes towards capital projects every year in the future. So we're trying to be prudent with money, just like, for example, the homeowner who has a mortgage but takes a home equity loan to maybe put on addition or maybe to redo a roof or to add siding to their house. Once they do that, they try to pay off the home equity loan before they take an additional home equity loan to do more. So we're trying to be conservative rather than burden the taxpayers additionally with more referendum debt, which could last anywhere from 10 to 20 years.
I wanted to underscore something that Brad said that's important. When you issue a referendum, if it fails, that's it. You can't do it, right? There's no way to do it if it fails. The second question allows you to, if we suddenly have other revenue sources to pay for that, then we can do it.
Subsequent budget year.
Yes.
Can I just ask a quick question? Whoever can answer, Bradley or Peter, I don't know. Ms. Hilsenrath had asked about the second question being, why is it not a capital expenditure versus a permanent tax increase? You answered that question, but my question is, when the second question is written for the taxpayers, will that be clear that the reason why it is not a capital expenditure versus a permanent tax increase is to be able to use that money in the future for future projects? Because I have a feeling that there are going to be other people who are going to be questioning the same thing. So I think we need to be very clear on how the second question is worded, that it's not just about the security vestibules. It's about the security vestibules now, but in the future, it may be about other projects. So I think you're going to have a lot of people who are going to wonder.
There's a way, I mean, I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like we've done this before. There's an interpretive statement that that goes along with the, I don't know who I'm looking at, Peter, or, right? So I think, but I think that this is important that we include this language and in the interpretive statement so that all voters understand what they're voting for and what the terms are, and that's it. And then again, it's up to the voters. That's why we're going to a second question. We're not having a question and answer. You can roll your eyes all you want.
What's written in this agenda is not the actual second.
Yes, I agree.
There's no second question.
There's no second question in the agenda tonight.
It's a budget question, it's a budget line in the agenda. It's not the second question that's going to be voted upon.
Correct. Thank you. Okay, are we good?
Okay. Amy, moving on to Amy's.
Dr. LaSouza had something.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mike. Could you turn on Mike's mic? I love saying that.
Yeah, the resolution on the agenda, there are two of them, one for each separate proposal, and it states clearly each of them represent a permanent increase in the tax levy, which I believe is part of what has to appear on the ballot when voters go. So the alternative to that would be a one-time increase in the tax levy to fund a certain item. Permanent increase in the tax levy means just as it sounds. Tax levy is being permanently increased, and like Mr. Smith explained, the reason for that was because we've foregone a lot of investment over the past several years since we were discussing the last referendum, and we would aim to dedicate whatever additional revenue we have toward dealing with our facilities and capital projects.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. I just think we need to be perfectly transparent about that so that people aren't wondering why. People aren't looking at the second question saying, oh, this is for the security vestibules, but then we're going to keep paying these increased taxes. What is that for?
Yes.
So I think we just need to be
Yeah,
clear.
and of course, this is you're voting on a budget tonight and a resolution that is required in order to put forward a separate proposal. After this, then we would begin, and of course, as we get closer to November, the process of communicating, sending information out, listing projects, and all the rest of it on our website.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thanks. I know I'm up to Amy's question, but Bradley, the alternative of not increasing it permanently and taking care of capital expenditures is, as we've seen some of our neighboring districts and districts throughout the county and even to the east of us, you get 3 years down the road and then you're putting out an $80 million
That's correct.
referendum
And raising
to,
debt and everything.
right, you're raising debt, so it's a matter of chipping away slowly, to Ann's point. It's a permanent increase to take care of business without having an $80 million referendum in 5 years.
And make no mistake, this was about us being more transparent and going to the voters and saying, what do you think about this? It's
Right.
not a way for us to raise some tax levy without being transparent.
Yeah, we have 9 votes. After that, it's up to the other
That's
18,000 residents.
That's correct.
And if you don't agree, then you vote no. If you
And
agree, then
and
you
as
vote
we said
yes.
before, we had capacity to raise the tax levy even further than we did. We held it back to 2% this year because we're understanding of the fact that inflation is hitting everyone. It's hitting all of the residents. So why not go out on this second question and just say, do you vote yes or no for this increase in permanent tax levy? And we're going to use it for these capital projects.
Right, with the first being security.
That's correct.
Dr. Zhang?
Yeah, I think because inflation is constant, it's not just 1 year. So just because we were able to balance it out doesn't mean that next year, next 2 years, 3 years, we'll be able to do the same thing, which is why there is a permanent increase, because we're going to have to deal with the same issue and more difficultly next year.
That's correct.
Okay, now
It's a snowball effect, actually, in the next few years.
again, which we see $80 million referendum being, very close to us. I don't want to throw anybody on the bus. Amy, we definitely can't answer your question, and I definitely can't answer your question right now, but I know Dr. Donahue is listening. She's out today, but maybe Dr. LaSousa has something to say on it, but we're going to have to circle back to you on the literacy question.
I can also just briefly
Oh, great.
answer. We have not moved away from Wilson in our special education classrooms. In fact, we've enhanced upon them and we've continued to develop our level 1 practitioners. LLI will be used as a supplemental resource. We've increased the instructional minutes for literacy in the elementary schools in the past 2 years, and the teachers need more supports to address a variety of learning needs in the class. We are not moving away from Wilson.
Great, thank you, Dr. Sorrentino. Go ahead, Mike.
Well, are you finished? or-
Almost.
Yeah,
I have
go
Mr.
ahead.
Heap. I have to answer Mr. Heap's question. Bill, thank you for being a great audience for Beauty and the Beast. It was a phenomenal show. Thank you for your kind words on the partnership. The business state aid is the one that the state aid, it did go up. Bradley, do you have the number that it went up? I don't think we're back to where we were when our aid was cut, but we're inching back there, but we still haven't recovered everything, but.
I have it somewhere.
We did receive additional state aid between $450,000 and $500,000, if I remember right. We are beyond where we ever were before the
cut?
cuts in 2008.
Okay, great.
And that's a result of S2, which is the law that transferred state funding from districts that were deemed overfunded by the state formula called CIFRA and to underfunded districts.
Yeah, we're back to the number, but we lost 10 years of revenue. So yes, our number is bigger, but we lost 10 years of state aid. So we're still not, it's semantics, but we lost a lot of money. But it's higher than it was, Bill. It's up. Okay, Dr. LaSousa, I'm sorry, over to you to
No, just a couple
comment.
things. In terms of the middle school folks, there have not been any conflicting messages. The messages have actually been crystal clear. We have an enrollment at the middle school next year that'll be 833, down from 1094 6 years ago. We've lost almost 25% of students at the middle school in that time. And when that happens, we end up having to contract when it comes from the staffing that we have. If we weren't implementing some of the changes that make scheduling more flexible, and that's being done independent of the 5th grade entering the middle school, then we would be in a position of losing more staff. So some of the changes that are being made internally to the way that the building is being scheduled are helping us retain programs and staff. I don't know where the $44 million in administrative number came from, because $44 million is about the entire payroll of all the teachers, paraprofessionals, and custodial staff and secretarial staff in the district. So the reason why when enrollment comes down, staffing comes down is because all of our programs are tied into staffing in one way or the other. So we're trying to handle those conversations at not just the middle school, but all of the buildings where we are losing staff in a sensitive manner. We're transferring people in many cases in order to save them because we have a position available in another building and their certificate matches that. And we're trying to be as communicative and sensitive when it comes to employment conversations as we can be. In terms of full-day kindergarten, the reason we don't have full-day kindergarten is we do not have enough classrooms. And we've talked about that specifically and overtly and explicitly at board meetings over the years. In fact, many of these conversations actually happened before our current kindergartners were born. So the only reason that we're undertaking so much stress in moving the 5th grade into the middle school, there's only one reason: full-day kindergarten. Because we have 12 classrooms right now that house 3rd grade. And if we move 3rd grade out of our K-3 schools, then we're going to have 12 classrooms that can accommodate full-day kindergarten. We attempted to move closer to full-day kindergarten back in 2015 when we proposed the construction of 8 total classrooms at the 3 elementary schools. That referendum failed, and we were not able to build at 2 of the schools. We came back the next year and we were successful with Milton Ave, and that's why we have 4 classrooms there. If we didn't have the 4 classrooms at Milton, we wouldn't have been able to launch a full-day kindergarten pilot 4 years ago. The only reason we were able to was because we had the 4 classrooms at Milton. And even this current year, we are only dedicating 4 classrooms in the entire district to full-day kindergarten. It's a direct relationship between the construction we did at Milton in 2016 and what we have available today for full-day kindergarten. The timing is difficult, and we can't really do too much better with the timing. And the reason for that is we have to have some type of registration period for kindergartners. We have to have some type of registration for 1st graders. Those 2 variables affect how many classrooms we need. But the other variable that comes into play is what we need for special education. And we don't have all of that resolved until the earliest, like March 1st. And even then, we can have to make adjustments depending on what kind of programs we need to offer for some of our special education learners that occupy classroom space, the number of students who might be moving in either for preschool or for kindergarten or potentially another grade level. And all of that needs to be sorted out before we can notify families that we have the ability to provide a program for them like full-day kindergarten. Because it would be far worse to tell them we are able to offer full-day kindergarten and tell them that on March 7th, and then on May 1st tell them, sorry, we made a mistake. We need that classroom back. Now you can go out and look for a private provider if you want full-day kindergarten. That doesn't work too well. So to our fault, we haven't ever tried to communicate with every family all at once to tell them you did not get in. We've just picked our way down the wait list because some people say, you know what, I'm going to pass, and then we go to the next one in line. We can do that fairly easily. That's an adjustment that we can make, but that will not change the timing of the notifications all that much.
Can I ask a question? And I might be hearing this the wrong way, but I think in light of the situation that we're in now, so we have the cohort that's been offered the full day. We have a cohort that's been offered half day. I do think it is fair to those half-day families to know whether they are AM or PM, because they do need to make other arrangements, and those other arrangements are contingent on the number of students. So I think we can do better to be able to let those families know at least whether they're AM or PM.
Yeah, so that was my last point. So the
Oh,
AM, PM,
sorry.
obviously you know as an elementary educator that a lot goes into scheduling classes, balancing classes. Typically, like right now, our master schedule at the high school is built, it's done. Middle school is just about done. All of those students know what their schedules are, but high school in particular, before they even walk out the door in June. Elementary typically don't release the class lists until August 15th or something to that effect. And historically, at least to my knowledge, at the K level, they've not released the half-day, the AM-PM split until June usually, because as people register or as people leave, it affects the balancing of the classes. And they don't like to tell people you're in the AM and then have to backtrack 3 weeks later and say, sorry, we made a mistake. We only have, 14 kids in the AM, but now we're at 26 in the PM because of, whatever happened. So I will speak with them and see when they're comfortable. But I know that historically, the longer they wait, the more then they have to retract on what they tell people.
Right, I understand what you're saying, but I think we're in a unique situation this year where we are not talking about the majority anymore. So I think I'm going to repeat what I said before.
Yep.
I think we can do better. I think we need to do better because I think we need to ensure those families that want to go out and find other opportunities for their children have that opportunity. So if you wouldn't mind reaching out to your administrative teams, wherever they are, that gets this ball rolling.
Yep.
I think we can do our best. We're not saying who the teacher is, but I think we can do our best to try to balance that AM, PM, so people can make plans.
Yep.
So that's,
And we're going to have the same problem next year, this unique
Yeah,
situation.
this will be 2 more years, hopefully, and then if we can
Great.
pull off the move of the 5th grade, we will not have to deal with this anymore.
Well, until 8 years from now when we know the enrollment goes back up.
right, but for now.
One fish at a time, I get you. But we do have, it's unique this year, and we have 2 more
But
cycles.
moving the 5th grade to the middle school helps us better guard against the
Yes,
enrollment
Yes.
increase.
Agreed.
Absolutely.
Agreed.
For
Go ahead.
those that have been offered a full day, when do they need to commit?
I forget the date that we had in the letter. But we also have, we have 2 dates. The one is when you have to put the down payment down, then the follow-up is, sometime in the summer before the school year begins. And we have had a family or 2 here and there who end up withdrawing or moving for whatever reason.
Single digits, though.
Single digits.
So you won't until summer?
No.
Yeah.
Well, we'll get an initial answer from all of these families relatively quickly. It won't be summertime.
I mean, if somebody moves, though, you go to the next list, right? The name
May
on the list.
21st? All right.
So July 31st is
Right.
the,
So, well, but we did
But
like
you
30
did
days out for the down payment.
okay. Great. Any other comments, Mike, or clarifications on anything?
Just want to say, if a separate proposal goes down, just like a referendum goes down, the board cannot undertake that project for that budget year. It's out. But the following year after that, if there is revenue or there are dollars available, then it could undertake the project.
Right, okay. And again, we've been sitting here a long time, so especially you and I. We knew that the intent was to build the classrooms to have full-day kindergarten by now. But we've been chipping away over the last 6 years to try and get there, and this is the progression. And some folks are unlucky, but we're getting there. We're making progress. We weren't willing to wait 10 years till we can deliver it to everybody. Right, wrong, and different, that's the path we took. Does anybody else have any comments? Michael?
Dr. LaSousa, how long is the all-day kindergarten program? From what hours?
It's the same hours as the
First, second, and third grade.
the elementary.
It goes till 2:30?
6.5 is the.
6.5, okay. Thank you. If it was a little shorter, we could have AM and PM all-day kindergarten and get more kids in, using the same classrooms.
I didn't follow.
It would,
Yeah, I didn't know how long it was.
Yeah, yeah.
I thought it was like 4 hours, not full day. Okay.
What's the current tuition for full-day kindergarten?
7.
7,000? Okay. Any other comments? This is a good dialogue. Nothing? Okay, great. So we can move on to the regular agenda, and then we can circle back with the second public commentary. So Ann, I'm going to send it over to you for personnel.
Okay, I'd like to move agenda items
What's that?
A1 to
I forgot you did
8:30.
the minutes already.
That's okay. A1 to 8:36 on the regular agenda for vote.
While you're reviewing, I just want to note that the attachment for A number 8 was corrected, and the corrected one was put up on the website earlier today.
For 8?
For the attachment for A8.
Okay, great, thank you.
The resolution stays intact, the attachment was corrected.
Got it, thank you.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions for Ann or Ms. Grant, who loves questions? Loves questions. Can't get enough. No questions? Okay, Peter, would you mind?
Sure, agenda items A1 through A36. Ms. Ciccarelli?
Yes.
Ms. Clark?
Yes.
Mr. Del Sandro?
Yes.
Ms. Ross?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Dr. Zhang?
Yes.
And Ms. Weber?
Yes.
Agenda items pass 8-0.
Excellent. Over to you, Mr. Smith, please, for finance and facilities.
I make a motion to move items B1 to B26 to a vote. This includes, as we spoke about before, the final budget for 23 and 24, the two proposed second questions, and also a number of donations, including funds for the school climate change pilot grant application, a New Jersey Safety Grant Program application, a donation from the Baseball Club of Chatham for a pitching machine, a donation from the baseball club, or I'm sorry, from the Basketball Club of Chatham towards the purchase of new basketball backboards in the high school C gym. So we are very appreciative of all of that.
Oh, that's fantastic, thank you.
I'll second.
Any discussion or questions on any of the budget items or any of the resolutions? Again, the agendas are posted on Friday afternoon, so we have a chance to read them over the weekend. So if it appears we're going through them quickly, it's just that we've looked at them already. Any questions for finance facilities? Oh, Peter, would you mind?
Sure, agenda items B1 through B26. Ms. Ciccarelli?
Yes.
Ms. Clark?
Yes.
Mr. Del Sandro?
Yes.
Ms. Ross?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
I have a yes on 1 through 25 and abstention on B26.
Thank you, duly noted. Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Dr. Zhang?
Yes.
And Ms. Weber?
Yes.
B1 through 25 pass 8-0, B26 7-0-1.
Perfect, thank you. Ms. Ross, over to you for curriculum.
Sure, I'd like to move agenda items C1 to C4 for a vote.
Second.
Mike, the delayed opening that's on the calendar for May 19th, that affects the entire high school? Or the seniors are not impacted?
It affects the entire high school who's not being tested. It's for
Okay.
NJSLA or one of those tests.
Okay. Okay, great. And for the student interns, these are the folks that are here for a full year?
Which one is that, Jill?
C3?
No, not all of them.
No, there's
1 and
no.
6 weeks.
Oh, I thought,
This one's the whole school year, this one's just for spring term.
okay. I thought we were told last time that they were always for a full year.
This one's just,
Okay, different, that's all right. Trying to get as much help as we can. Any questions on C3 or C4? No. Peter?
Agenda items C1 through C4. Ms. Ciccarelli?
Yes.
Ms. Clark?
Yes.
Mr. Del Sandro?
Yes.
Ms. Ross?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Smith? Dr. Zhang?
Yes.
And Ms. Weber?
Yes.
Agenda items pass 8-0.
Great. And over to you, Mr. Ryan, for the last item.
Yes, I'd like to move agenda item D1 on the regular agenda for a vote.
Second.
Any questions on this item? Mike mentioned it earlier during his report. No, you're good? Peter?
Agenda item D1. Ms. Ciccarelli?
Yes.
Ms. Clark?
Yes.
Mr. Del Sandro?
Yes.
Ms. Ross?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Dr. Zhang?
Yes.
And Ms. Weber?
Yes.
Agenda item D1 passes 8-0.
Great. And then now we're entering into our board business, and I just wanted to, back to the calendars, Mike. You gave us 3. Alana had wanted to discuss with the board, she had a conflict, a late-minute conflict, about maybe possibly reworking the calendar to eliminate, only focus on federal holidays, not picking and choosing religious holidays. But the caveat to that was, she said there'd have to be some type of testing, blackout period for those that wanted to celebrate, a particular holiday. Not that we'd still have school, but that you wouldn't have, tests that day or a project due that day. So again, Lotta just wanted to, bring it up for discussion, instead of, I got an email from a student wanting to celebrate, various holidays in the calendar. Why Rosh Hashanah? Why Good Friday? Why not X? Why not Y? So Lotta's thought was, what, maybe we get out of the business of holidays other than federal holidays and then work the school closings around whatever works best for the district. Whether that means, a full break in February, getting out earlier, starting later. I was just wondering if there's any thoughts on, anybody want to throw anything out there? Is there an opportunity to modify one of these calendars to reflect, no Good Friday off, no...
Good Friday a federal holiday? Or no?
No, it's not.
Just markets are closed.
It's a market holiday. Yeah. So I don't know.
I don't know.
Was there supposed to be some parents' survey about the holidays that every family celebrates?
Yes, that's what we talked about in curriculum or policy committee, and I was going to send that along with the calendars to get feedback on both at the same time.
Could you refresh my memory?
Just to kind of get a feel from the families in the community, which holidays do they actually observe in their homes?
Okay.
So that we just have have more information available
Okay.
to us
That
about
would be
which
helpful.
holidays are being observed or commemorated by how many families.
Right. Even if they're not observed traditionally,
Right.
on our
It's
calendars.
more than Rosh Hashanah and Easter.
Right.
Are you going to give them a choice to pick, or they're just going to
Yes, so
enter?
the Department of Education lists recognized religious holidays, but there are like 200 of them or something. It's really expansive, the list. But there are big ones that we could definitely, focus on. So Lunar New Year is one. Diwali is another. Eid is another. Ramadan. We can, kind of hit the biggest ones that might be pertinent. My concern with the federal holiday is only that I believe Veterans Day is a federal holiday. I believe Election Day is a federal holiday. Those are 2 days there in November that are not lined up necessarily with Teachers Convention, which is not a federal holiday, but which in New Jersey is one where just about every school district is closed those 2 days. So that becomes a little bit tricky.
Yeah. Understood.
So.
Yeah, it would be good to get the extra information. Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay. And I think we should not rush into making drastic changes. I think we should gather information, have really thoughtful conversations, and think long and hard about any changes we make.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so we now have our second opportunity for public, I'm sorry, did anybody else want to add to that? Okay, great.
So Ms. Weber, what do you want to do with these 3 versions? Just hold them until the next meeting?
Yeah, we
Okay.
want to hold them to just try and absorb them a little bit, and we'll get back to you. Great. So we have our second opportunity for public commentary. If you wouldn't mind just introducing yourself again, that would be swell.
I'm Amy again, and I'm happy to hear that Wilson is still, I almost had a heart attack because I know everything we've invested in Wilson on certifying teachers. But I'm still so disappointed to hear we're continuing to invest in leveled literacy intervention. And if there's any opportunity, if this investment has not already been made, I implore you as board members, one very easy way to learn more about my concern would be to listen to this sold story by Emily Hanford. She's done a ton of reporting on it. There's New York Times, Washington Post, Ed Week articles all on this program. And you may also remember when Dr. Lanza came to present to us a couple years ago, she spoke so passionately about the remediation and what can happen between kindergarten and first grade, and how much more exponentially those children are served with that early intervention and remediation. It is really vital. And their lifelong opportunities diminish as those struggling readers are not caught in time. And more important than their lifelong opportunities, I know something that you all care very much about, because I've sat in here so many meetings talking about mental health. And when children are looking to the seats to the left and right of them, and they cannot read and do the job that they came to school to do, I am telling you from thousands of parents that I've spoken to, this really does affect academic and self-esteem so powerfully for our middle schoolers, for kids going into later grades. It really sets a path for them. So looking at these programs, you might just be saying this is a kindergarten or a special education program. They are so powerful. I'm just not sure why something that's really failed kids is we're continuing to put money in. Like you said, Jill, like, let's rip the covers off the bed, and if something's not working, let's reevaluate. Thank you.
Hello again, Kara. I just wanted to echo back, since there was the whole discussion had. Ms. Clark, I think you hit the nail on the head kind of with what I was trying to get at earlier. It's just because there is such a greater number, there's going to be about 50 kids more in full day. It does affect the enrichment programs that are going to be out there, because there's just not going to be enough of a pool of kids to support the existing programs. So if there is anything that can be done, that is my plea to you all, to the elementary schools, to please just let us know. Totally understand they can say AM and then it could switch to PM. That's always the case though. And all of your paperwork that you give to us, it's like always is asking for your preference, and that nothing is a guarantee. And I think people, while that obviously if things shift puts people on monkey tilt again, it would relieve a lot of stress from our lives currently if there's a way to let that be known, so that these other enrichment programs can let us know what's going to be out there and available, so that we can plan accordingly. Like, my only thing as a parent, like I was trying to say earlier, I do have a daughter in half day. We've been able to make her have a full day with an enrichment program that we love. I will do the same thing for my daughter this upcoming year, as long as that's a possibility. But I want to make sure that that's a possibility, because if it's not, and I have to go do other research, it's just not okay to let some people know in March, some people know in April, let us know in June, and then we start school in August. Like, that's a very tight turnaround. So anything that you can do would be greatly appreciated. And I appreciate the discussion that was had. I understand you have your hands tied and you're doing the best you can. I also would love if there's any kind of way to ask the current families. Seems like surveys are done regularly, and I'm happy to help. I'll email and try to reach out if there's anything that I can do to help. But if I don't have anyone the following year going into kindergarten, I'm happy to try to help, just to make the process, get feedback from parents that have gone through this in these years where you are saying, it might be 2024, it might be 2025, we're working. We understand that, but until the day comes that it's here, if there's a way to make it a little bit more palatable, it is everyone's first entry into the school district. And I know it's a fabulous school district and you guys work so hard for it, but it would be a lot better to come in feeling good rather than coming in with a sour taste in our mouth. So thank you so much, appreciate it, and look forward to speaking with you in the future. Thank you.
Hi, Anne Marie O'Donnell again. I just had a thought in hearing your discussion about the kindergarten. And as I said, I live by the Milton School, so I saw the extension. It looks great. My thought goes out, if you're only a few short, have you considered trying to have the facilities for this day, for the kindergarten in some of the other borough facilities that might be, meeting the school requirements, like our library or even the senior center of the Chathams? Just a thought. I know there's a lot of logistics and insurance and legality to consider, but I'm sure you could maybe consider it as a possibility. Thank you.
Libby Hilsenrath, Chatham Borough. My first comment would be, I think it would be a lot more constructive if we could go back to short back and forth conversations, because as people ask our questions, if they're not answered right away, then we have people speaking out from the audience, and it becomes less constructive. So I took a lot of notes as you guys thankfully addressed my questions. And correct me if I misunderstood, but I thought someone said you were not voting on the second questions tonight. But I believe you just did pass, which would be item B2, I believe, which includes the budget, finance and facilities, section B, item B2, which includes the budget, the first proposal, the second proposal, and the capital expenditures. I'd like to stand here and ask, am I right? But I'm sure I won't get an answer. But I think it was just voted on and passed by the board, where I thought I heard before you guys saying, we're not voting on it tonight, it goes to the voters. I understand that, but you have to pass it in order for it to go to the voters. So what I was urging before is that you would vote no tonight on passing these resolutions. Clarification. I heard a reference to an $80 million referendum. I don't think that was ever proposed or would ever be something that we would do. I think what I'm still not clear on is on this proposal number 1, as a permanent tax levy increase, what that banked cap would be used for in the future. And the question came up, and I was going to bring up, but I was stopped at my 6-minute limit, was the fact that, yes, per code, you have to provide an interpretive statement, which, if the interpretive statement is going to be this be it resolved paragraph, that's fine. But what that does not describe is what that banked cap and permanent tax levy is going to be used for in the future. If it's capital funds, then again, I think we still go back to capital expenditures. So I still have a lot of questions. I truly wish we could go back to a sort of conversation. Maybe it could be limited to 5 minutes. Anyway, but what I will say, there is a statute that is NJAC 6A 23A 12.2, which the board must adhere to when proposing second questions to ask to exceed the tax levy limitations. One item in particular says that a proposal submitted to voters shall not include any capital outlay necessary for health and safety reasons. So I'm just going to leave it at that. That is a statute that is actually stated in your budget, and I don't think that proposal 1 complies with that. I have more to say, which I guess I'll have to wait until the next meeting to do, because I don't want to be over my time limit again. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Libby. Amy, thanks for your comments. Oh, Amy's gone, but thank you for the comments. Kara's gone, but again, good dialogue. Emery, thank you for your comments. I mean, any idea is a good idea. Facilities, we really can't go outside the campuses. One, security, liability. There's certain parameters, state requirements, that you have to serve certain square footage, a certain number of personnel. You have to have a school nurse on site. So to have two classrooms at a remote location with no school nurse, it's not allowed. But security for me would be my paramount and primary concern. If you had, students at another facility, which their public is coming in and out, which we have no control over, I would never sign up for that. But again, we've been kicking around ideas for 10 years, so, keep them coming. Libby, thanks for your comments. As we said before, we're not going to do the back and forth. As an example, Kara and Christine had very similar comments, so it's easier to answer them all at the same time. Sometimes we get 30 people in here that say the same thing, and instead of doing 30 back and forths. Again, this is a board meeting that's held in public. If the board, chooses to do it differently, let me know, but for now, we're going to continue that. And Libby, we did understand your question. We have to vote on just putting it out there for November. We didn't vote on spending $850 million. That's up to 18,000 other residents. We just, as Mike explained or Bradley explained, as part of the regulation, you have to pass a resolution to then go forward with it in November. So it was more of a housekeeping, check the box. We understood your question. We disagreed. We wanted to vote and move forward. So we did understand it. I don't have any other comments to that. I don't know if anybody else had anything I want to add.
Well, 6A is administrative code, it's not statute, and the
I'm bleeding out here.
The separate proposals need to be submitted with the budget to the county superintendent. We did that. It was approved by the county superintendent's office on the preliminary basis for final adoption for tonight, and then we will submit the final budget to the county, and if there's any kind of issue or any kind of input they think that we need to take into account when it comes to going to the county clerk, then we'll get that, and we'll make sure that the two proposals are clearly worded and that the interpretive statement is what it is supposed to be. But we have done the portion of getting it preliminarily approved by the county superintendent.
Okay, great. Just a reminder, we do have an executive session to talk about legal matters and a personnel matter. Mike, is action going to be taken or not likely? Oh, action will be taken. Okay, very good. So if we could all just meet in the band room. So we're going to close the public section now, and we're going to reconvene in the band room for executive session. Thank you, everybody. Drive safe. Appreciate you coming out.
You need a medic.
I know, right?
Yeah, what happened?
I picked the tiniest